7 miraculous signs God has revealed you are meant to be with someone divine and sacred. The rain fell softly on the chapel's stone roof, each drop whispering secrets of heaven. Elizabeth sat in the dim light, her heart heavy with longing. In the serene village of Clavelli, where cobblestone streets meandered through lush greenery and the historic chapel stood as the heart of the community, she felt lost. Each day her friends found love, God's blessings shining brightly upon them, while she remained alone, yearning for the divine companionship that seemed just beyond her grasp. Suddenly, a flickering prayer candle caught her attention. It danced and swayed as if it knew something profound. She gasped, felt a warm wave of peace wash over her. "Wait for the signs," echoed in her mind, and Elizabeth closed her eyes, surrendering to the moment. She felt an overwhelming urge to pray, pouring out her heart as layers of hope unfurled within her. As days passed, the signs appeared in abundance. The gentle sound of the chapel bell rang clear one morning, inviting her to a gathering where Sister Agnes spoke of dreams. "I saw you, Elizabeth," she exclaimed, eyes alight with fervor. "A radiant partner brought forth by God's grace is destined for you." Elizabeth's heart raced. Could this be one of the signs? The air crackled with anticipation. Later, Father Matthias, with a smile that seemed to pierce through clouds of doubt, spoke with cryptic wisdom. "A flicker of love will flourish if only you keep the faith. Sometimes God moves in mysteries unexplainable." His words struck chords of reverence deep within her. She felt each flicker illuminate her spirit. But what if her interpretations were flawed? Before she could retreat into solitude again, a shadow appeared in the doorway. Jonah stepped inside, soaked from the rain, but radiant with an aura that made Elizabeth's heart race. He shared his story, filled with struggles and redemption through faith, igniting an undeniable connection between them. "I found light in the darkest places," he revealed, voice thick with emotion. She felt drawn to him, like a moth to a flame, but dark whispers followed them, questioning their paths. Before we continue, Jonah interrupted his own thought. "I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference." He paused, glancing around as he added, "Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." "Now, let us continue." Elizabeth felt an urgency swell in her heart, torn between embracing the signs she witnessed and the weight of skepticism that loomed in her community. Each moment shared with Jonah was a brush with destiny, yet doubts battled fiercely. Could God be weaving these laces of divine connection amidst winds of uncertainty? The last flickering candle brought an electrifying silence. Elizabeth stood at the threshold of her spiritual journey, heart racing with unanswered questions. Can God truly weave hope into a tapestry of love through adversity? As the candlelight danced, sending shadows around her like holy whispers, she felt the stirring of a new beginning. But would it illuminate her path or flicker out, leaving her heart wandering in darkness? The answers lingered just beyond the horizon, waiting for the perfect moment to be revealed. In the days that followed, Elizabeth found herself drawn to the chapel more often, as if it had become a sanctuary of clarity amidst the fog of her emotions. Each visit felt like a sacred retreat, where thoughts and prayers danced in harmony. Sunlight streamed through stained glass windows, casting colorful light upon her, and she often closed her eyes, allowing the warmth to embrace her longing heart. Friends began to notice the change in her. "You seem different, Liz. There's a light in your eyes," smiled Clara, her childhood friend. Clara's words met Elizabeth's ears like sweet melodies, stirring an unexpected joy within her. The flickers of hope ignited by her moments with Jonah lingered, leaving echoes, as if the universe was conspiring to weave their destinies together. One afternoon, As summer breezes filtered through open chapel doors, she sensed a familiar presence. Jonah appeared again, his face illuminated by a heavenly aura that made the world around them fade. I felt prompted to come here. There is something I need to share, he said, moving closer. The air felt charged with possibility. Elizabeth's heart beat faster. What is it? She asked softly, leaning in, caught between excitement and curiosity. I met someone after our last talk, he began, eyes shimmering with enthusiasm. They told me that God's plan often unfolds in the most surprising ways. They encouraged me to speak to you about something beyond mere coincidence. Each word was as precious as a prayer. What do you mean? She whispered, feeling an electric anticipation ripple through her. Jonah hesitated, searching her expression for understanding. I can't shake this feeling that our paths cross for a reason. You and I, it's deeper than we know. And perhaps it's not merely about the two of us. Maybe, just maybe, it's about fulfilling a greater calling. Elizabeth felt her breath catch. Could he sense the divine connection she had been yearning for? Her heart soared, yet skepticism loomed on the fringes. What if these feelings were just fleeting moments that would fade with time? What is holding you back? Jonah asked, reading her face. It's all so new, Jonah. What if I'm just imagining it all? She replied, wrestling with the authenticity of what surged within her. Jonah's eyes softened. Faith often requires us to step into the unknown. Remember the words of Father Matthias? The flickers can be more than just a spark. They might lead us to a fire, to our purpose. The chapel bell rang, its echoing sound intertwined with the heartbeat of hope in Elizabeth's heart. The hesitant doubts began to surrender, if only slightly, to the promise of divine possibilities. Yet shadows still lingered in her soul, whispering of fears and failures. Suddenly, someone interrupted their moment, a young girl, barely 7, with blooming curiosity. "Excuse me, mister. Can you help me find my way home?" she asked, her innocent face bright with anticipation. Elizabeth smiled softly, recognizing the purity and trust that radiated from the child. "Of course, dear. Where do you live?" The girl described her home a few streets away, her small hands twirling about excitedly. That interaction sparked something in them both. Moments like that reminded them that goodness continued to thrive even amidst uncertainty. As they exited the chapel, Jonah turned to Elizabeth. "What if, in our journey, we share what God is doing here with others? Perhaps what's blossoming in our hearts can guide others to discern their paths too." Her thoughts bubbled with excitement at the idea. Just then, a breeze swept through, lifting her spirit further. Was this a holy nudge, directing her closer to the answers she sought? Elizabeth looked into Jonah's eyes, filled with passion and unwavering faith. The stirring within her was palpable, promising transformation. But would their journey be met with acceptance, or would doubt and fear weigh heavily upon them? The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm glow around them as they stepped forward. Elizabeth took a deep breath, realizing that she stood at the edge of something sacred. But would she leap into the unknown, trusting that God had a plan waiting just on the other side? Her heart raced with anticipation as the answer echoed in the distance. The moment of divine intervention awaited. As Elizabeth and Jonah stepped into the fading daylight, the dusk painted a tapestry of soft colors, wrapping around them like a loving embrace. Each step brought a ripple of anticipation unfurling in Elizabeth's heart. She felt the air crackle around them, charged with possibilities that stretched far beyond their understanding. What do we do next? Jonah's voice held a touch of nervous excitement. It was like he was wrapping her in the warmth of his faith. Elizabeth paused, contemplating their path forward. We need to explore this calling. But how? She knew the question must have lingered there, poised like the first notes of an unfinished song. The first steps often require more from us than we expect, Jonah replied. We need to listen and trust. Let God lead us. In that moment, something shifted within her. The chapel they had left still echoed with the prayers whispered earlier, and the conversations danced in her mind. What if their connection was more than just a moment? Was it the beginning of a purpose that transcended their own lives? Should we start with sharing our story? She suggested, almost hesitantly. I mean, our own encounters with faith? Absolutely. Jonah's smile lit up the dimming sky, a precious luster in the waning light. Maybe that's how we'll find our way. We could gather friends and share what we've experienced. They might need to hear it too. Excitement bubbled within Elizabeth, but just as quickly shadows flitted back in her mind, casting doubts along with her longing. What if they don't understand? What if they think we're foolish? Light can be blinding to those who prefer darkness, Jonas said, his voice steady. But every flicker of truth has the power to reveal hidden paths. We can't control how they receive it, but we can offer it boldly with love. His conviction stirred something deeper inside her, a small flame igniting against the backdrop of uncertainty. Elizabeth felt the warmth of God's presence guiding them, urging her to take that leap of faith. And yet, with every moment that passed, she knew the journey ahead would demand their courage more than ever. Determined, she nodded, embracing the adventure that awaited. The thought of gathering friends, of sharing their revelation, flooded her with thrilling energy. It felt as if the very fabric of her life began to weave a story colored by divine purpose. As dusk deepened into night and stars blinked awake in the sky, Elizabeth sensed a shift. No longer merely a participant in this unfolding narrative, she was ready to play a vital role. "Let us meet at the chapel again tomorrow," she proposed. "We can plan our gathering." "Yes," Jonah exclaimed, his eyes reflecting the light of the stars above. "And let us invite those who have been part of our lives, those who might feel lost or in need of hope. Our story can inspire them." With her heart pounding, Elizabeth felt anticipation mixed with fear, but mostly an exhilarating sense of purpose. Each step she took grounded her deeper into this sacred mission. As they parted ways that evening, a softness enveloped her heart, yet a new thought crept in. The reality of sharing her most vulnerable moments was daunting. Would she truly be able to convey the depth of her experience? The fragility of her faith? The night air hummed with promise, but questions lingered. How would this venture unfold? Would they face resistance, or find acceptance in the hearts of their loved ones? With every passing day, the question of divine intervention hung delicately in the air, waiting. Could the miraculous signs she sought be waiting just around the corner, waiting to transform lives? Would she be brave enough to dive in completely? Every heartbeat echoed a silent prayer for guidance, as Elizabeth stood on the precipice of something beautiful, yet unfamiliar. And so the story continued. As dawn broke over the horizon, a golden light streamed through Elizabeth's window, illuminating her room with a warmth that felt both comforting and invigorating. The events of the previous evening swirled in her mind, filling her heart with a mix of joy and trepidation. She felt the weariness of sleeplessness cling to her, but deep within, a new energy surged. Today was not just an ordinary day. It was a day of possibility. Her thoughts turned to Jonah. The hope he radiated seemed to stir a light in her own spirit. They were set to meet at the chapel again, an echo of faith pushing them closer to their divine purpose. A gathering of friends awaited, each heart ready to hear their story. With every moment closer to that reunion, Elizabeth's excitement grew, interlaced with the questions that fluttered like leaves caught in a gentle breeze. In the quiet of her morning routine, she reflected on the experiences that had shaped her faith. Each moment felt like a stepping stone leading her to this defining juncture. She recalled the dark nights filled with uncertainty, punctuated by glimpses of grace when she felt God's touch, the warmth of a stranger's smile, the lyrics of a song that resonated with her very soul, and the ways her path had crossed with others who carried shared burdens. With a soft sigh, she grabbed her notebook, eager to spill her thoughts onto the pages. Writing always felt sacred to her, a way to channel her inner cry to the heavens into something tangible. As her pen glided across the paper, words flowed like a gentle stream, confessions of past hurts and the healing she had found through faith. Each revelation felt like a brushstroke on a canvas, painting a larger picture of hope and purpose. Jonah's encouraging voice echoed in her ears, reminding her to trust and let the light shine. Today, they would share more than just their stories. They would extend an invitation for those around them to step into the warmth of God's love. The thought sent shivers down her spine. A mixture of thrill and vulnerability wrestled for dominance. Later, the chapel doors welcomed her back with open arms. The air was charged with the scent of fresh flowers and the soft rustle of people gathering. Elizabeth felt her heart race as she scanned the room, looking for faces she recognized, faces that might hold stories of their own. Jonah arrived shortly after, his presence a beacon of encouragement. "Ready?" he asked, his excitement almost palpable. She took a deep breath, nodding. "As ready as I'll ever be. We have to be honest, vulnerable." He smiled, that same reassuring smile that had sparked her courage the night before. And that's the beauty of it. When we let our lights shine, we create space for others to do the same. The two began to set up the space, arranging chairs in a circle, gathering small candles to symbolize the flicker of faith each person would bring. With each placement, Elizabeth felt a growing sense of reverence. This gathering wasn't just an event. It was a sacred moment, a circle of connection that invited God to work through their shared stories. As friends trickled in, familiar voices filled the air, laughter mingled with nervous energy, and Elizabeth felt the sacred atmosphere grow thicker. With whispered prayers resting on her lips, she glanced at Jonah, who encouraged her with a nod. "Let's just open with a prayer," she suggested, offering her voice as the first to rise above the murmur. "To thank God for bringing us here and to invite His presence into our gathering." They all bowed their heads. Elizabeth's heart swelled, feeling the unity within the circle. As she spoke, she felt the very air transform, charged with a holy presence that pressed gently against her. With her spirit intertwined with theirs, she sensed that something profound was about to emerge from this shared vulnerability. Willing to embrace the unfolding journey, Elizabeth took a deep breath, ready to share. But inside her, a question lingered like a hint of sweet perfume. What miracles would sprout from this little seed of faith? It was then that she noticed a familiar face at the back, someone she hadn't seen in years, a friend from her past weighed down by uncertainty. Their eyes met, and she felt an unexpected tug at her heart. Would this gathering lead to healing? Could old wounds be mended, and new life emerge from familiar stories? As Jonah began to speak, Elizabeth's thoughts swirled. Each moment felt like a divine invitation, a chance for transformation that lay right before them. And she knew, with an undeniable certainty, that they were right on the brink of something miraculous. The divine thread weaving through their lives was about to unravel new truths. What revelations awaited in this sacred circle? Would they uncover signs of heaven meeting earth right in their midst? Jonah began to speak, his voice warm and steady, drawing everyone's attention with inviting words. "Thank you, everyone, for being here. This gathering is a blessing. We stand together today in trust, ready to share our truths." His eyes sparked with authenticity, igniting a flicker of reassurance in Elizabeth's heart. As he continued, Elizabeth felt a sense of unity grow around her. Each person in the chapel formed a unique thread, woven into a tapestry of shared experiences and divine encounters. It was as if, with every word spoken by Jonah, the air thickened with love and understanding. "I'd like to start by sharing a piece of my story," Jonah said, sharing his struggles with doubt and his journey towards faith. His vulnerability became a mirror reflecting the struggles of others around him. The chapel seemed to breathe together, hearts opening like flowers under the sun, each listening in silence. Elizabeth felt her thoughts racing, the weight of her past longing to break free. As she heard Jonah's story, something stirred within her, a whisper of courage urging her to step forward. "If he can share, then so can I," she thought fervently. The familiar face in the back remained etched in her mind, a reminder of their shared history. Wait, what if she could be a guiding light for that friend? Could this gathering bring healing, not just for herself, but also for others steeped in shadows of their past? With another deep breath, Elizabeth stood up, feeling the warm gaze of her friends upon her. I, too, would like to share, she began, her voice trembling as she recalled the burdens she had carried for so long. There were times when I felt utterly lost, when despair clouded my vision. But through faith, I found fragments of truth hidden in the darkness. I learned that God's love is relentless, no matter how far we stray. The vulnerability in her words drew in the listeners. Elizabeth could see their eyes glistening with understanding. I stand here today not just to share my hurt, but to celebrate the healing I have found. Each encounter I faced, each act of kindness, and every prayer was a brush of his hand in my life. Her friend in the back shifted in his seat, the tension visible in his brow. Elizabeth's heart raced. She felt a magnetic pull toward him. Their eyes locked again, an unspoken acknowledgement of shared journeys, the weight of unexpressed desires, and the hope for divine connection. This was the beginning of something sacred. The candles flickered like stars, illuminating the whispers of hope swirling within the room. Each participant, now charged with palpable anticipation, took a turn sharing their own stories. There were tears and laughter, moments of revelation and peace, a true tapestry of faith woven in real time. As the sharing continued, Elizabeth sensed ripples of healing. She could almost visually map the notes of compassion soaring through the air. Jonah, in his continued encouragement, pointed out the divine language. They were speaking a language of faith that transcended all barriers. When one heart speaks, others resonate. He reflected, it's the harmony of God's love. Elizabeth felt the room swell with an incredible presence. Every whisper of vulnerability mingled with the threads of shared grace. And as they drew closer, it became evident. Each story was a piece of a greater puzzle, a divine mosaic of experiences leading to transformation. But just as Elizabeth felt the spark of excitement crawling through her, her friend suddenly rose from his seat, emotions flickering across his face. The chapel hushed, all eyes turning toward him. I've carried a heavy heart, he conceded, his voice breaking. And hearing you seeing all of this makes me believe that I can be free. As he spoke, a deep silence enveloped the room, with the weight of his words hanging like a sacred offering suspended in the air. Elizabeth could hear her heartbeat in the stillness. The potential for healing was real, and tension hung thick, waiting for something to break, a moment of divine intervention. What came next would alter the course of their lives. How many miracles were woven throughout the whispers of their truths. And as Elizabeth glanced at Jonah, she could sense the shimmer of heavenly light, beckoning them to delve deeper into this sacred journey. Was this the moment they had been waiting for? Would faith truly transform their past wounds into a future bursting with hope and communion? With every heart poised in prayerful anticipation, the sacred circle remained ready. It was only the beginning. A hush settled over the chapel, an echoing stillness that cradled every heart. Elizabeth felt the weight of her friend's words wash over her, each syllable releasing a ripple of possibility across the room. It was profound. This moment of shared vulnerability danced with an energy only God could orchestrate. Jonah stepped forward, his presence radiating calm. Your honesty, my friend, he began, addressing Elizabeth's companion directly, is a brave light piercing through the shadows. We're all part of a larger story, a divine story. In our sharing, we create pathways for each other by revealing the strength that grows from our struggles. Elizabeth noticed her friend wipe away a tear, and in that motion, something shifted. The mood transformed, as if a breeze swept through the chapel, stirring the dormant blossoms of hope. She could feel the weight of collective breaths being held, a mixture of fear and anticipation. I used to think healing was a solitary pursuit, Jonah continued, but true healing unfolds in community. Remember, When you speak, you not only release your own burdens, but also connect with others who have carried similar stones. You inspire us to embrace our truths. As Jonah spoke, he seemed to shine. Elizabeth felt herself drawn deeper into this moment, and the earlier fear began to recede. The warmth from the candlelight flickered like tiny messengers of hope, urging her to step more profoundly into this space. I believe there is a divine purpose in our gathering today, Elizabeth said, her voice steadying as she found courage in the connection around her. Each story shared is another thread woven into God's grand design. We're here to lift each other, to deepen our understanding of love, faith, and grace. The room vibrated with quiet murmurings of agreement, each person's South spirit stirring in place a quiet affirmation of unity. Elizabeth felt the presence of God encircling them all, warming their hearts with a gentle but undeniable nudge. Her friend finally spoke again, this time more assured. I do want to break free from my past. I want to believe that every painful moment wasn't in vain. What if there is a future where I can trust again? His vulnerability resonated, igniting a spark in the hearts of those around him. Yes, Jonah encouraged. Belief is a stepping stone, a leap towards something greater. Sometimes, all it takes is a change in perspective. What if your past leads you to a divine future? What if the pain you've endured carves out space for joy to enter? Elizabeth's heart soared as she listened. Each word seemed to lift the burdens from her friend, the chapel becoming a sacred ground where hearts intertwined, where healing was no longer an individual journey, but a communal pilgrimage toward divine love. Then, a gentle voice broke through the silence. Can we pray together? It was an older woman, her frail hands trembling slightly. The request hung in the air, and without hesitation, everyone joined in a circle. The connection felt electric, fingers clasped tight, souls exposed. As they bowed their heads, Elizabeth sensed a swirling of the divine, that otherworldly presence enveloping them all. Was this what unity felt like? Each prayer woven into a singular intent, a collective yearning for freedom from the chains that each one had clutched. Father, Elizabeth began softly, every word carrying the weight of collective burdens. We are here, honest and yearning for healing. Let us be vessels of your love, a reflection of your grace. Show us how to love one another as you have loved us. Tears began to flow, not just from her eyes, but from many. With each phrase, they released a piece of their pain, their doubts, their desires. It was collective, and the harmony felt palpable. As they finished, a sacred quiet formed around them, a beautiful moment where every heart beat together. Elizabeth looked around, certain God was breathing life into them, igniting purpose in their midst. She felt something stirring inside, a longing deeper than before, a curiosity. What would come of this connection, this newfound faith? As the service began to draw to closure, Elizabeth could not help but wonder how many more signs awaited them. Each moment in faith seemed to open a door to something extraordinary, and they were all thirsty for what was next. What miracles lay just beyond the horizon of their shared faith? And when the dawn broke, what divine revelations would they discover as a sacred community? As the final echoes of Psalm faded into the air, the chapel slowly breathed back to life with murmurs and soft laughter. The sacred moment lingered, yet Elizabeth felt the stirring of something new within her. It wasn't merely the afterglow of shared prayer, but a deep, resounding call from within, a whisper of God beckoning her to explore a path uncharted. Jonah, still enveloped in the shadows of divine light, looked around the circle and spoke with gentle authority. Friends, we've stepped into a space of trust tonight. Healing takes courage, and it begins with understanding that our stories are meant to be shared, our paths to intertwine. Elizabeth's friend, who had first voiced his desire to break free from the shackles of his past, stood with renewed energy. I feel lighter. It's like all this weight I didn't even know I was carrying has been lifted. The sincerity in his voice rippled through the group, igniting a new wave of hope. One by one, others began to share their own reflections, stories of pain that transformed into testimonies of promise. An elderly man spoke quietly but firmly of the loss he felt after his wife passed away, finding solace in the love they once shared. "It's enough," he smiled through tears. "Her laughter lives on in me. Sometimes it's in remembrance that we find new beginnings." Elizabeth's heart danced with these words, resonating deeply within her. She realized they were all collecting pieces of a grand mosaic, each shard adding depth to the beautiful tapestry of their lives, woven and guided by the very hands of God. "Don't you see?" Jonah said, his voice rising slightly as he captivated his audience. "Our deepest wounds can teach us the most profound lessons about love and connection. The scars we bear are testaments to strength, not surrender." The electricity in the room surged once more. Elizabeth could sense it, a divine urgency, a call to action. She understood now. These were not mere stories. They were sacred revelations, invitations to rediscover what God had in store. With each shared experience, something unfurled inside Elizabeth, wrapping around her heart like a morning fog lifting in the sunlight. What was hers to share? What burdens did she carry that could be transformed into a beacon for others? "Can I share something?" she asked, her voice shaky but resolute. "I've gone through many seasons of doubt and uncertainty. There were days I thought faith had abandoned me. But in this gathering, I am reminded I am not alone. It's here among you, in this community, I find strength." A chorus of affirmative murmurs filled the chapel, as nods of understanding were exchanged. The presence of God intertwined with their shared emotions, a weaving of grace, love, and hope that sparked life anew. Elizabeth took a deep breath. Perhaps we were meant to challenge each other, to bring forth the hidden treasures of our hearts. It is in our connections, in recognizing the sacredness of one another, that we experience real transformation. "Exactly," Jonah interjected, his energy propelling through the space. "And the moment we realize we are not just here to exist, but to truly live, that is, when we uncover the miracles meant for us." Hope pulsed vibrantly through the chapel, mingling with cries for deeper connection and divine guidance. Elizabeth closed her eyes, envisioning each spirit before her glowing like candles, independent, yet unified in the face of their journeys. It was that thought that ignited something unexpected in her, a desire not just to share her pain, but to seek out the miracles waiting to be revealed. Was she ready to act on that yearning? As they intertwined fingers once again for unity, Elizabeth felt the full weight of the moment. The atmosphere crackled with potential and promise, urging them all forward into the night beyond the chapel walls. What would ignite her steps into the world beyond? More importantly, what divine purpose awaited on the other side as they ventured together into this uncharted territory? They stood at the threshold of something deeply transformational as sacred. Inquiry into life, love, and the miracles that often arise in the mundane moments. What signals would they receive in the quiet after their prayers had been offered? And how would they respond to the echo of God's call? As the group settled into a familiar silence, an unspoken understanding stretched across the circle. Elizabeth could feel the warmth of her friend's presence, a collective heartbeat almost synchronized in faith and anticipation. It was as if they had all breathed in the very essence of encouragement, and now something divine was unfolding among them. Jonah glanced around the room, the radiance of his spirit illuminating the dark corners. As we prepare to step out into the world, let us remember the beauty of our voices. Each one of us carries a melody meant to be sung. Let us not hold back. The congregation nodded, a gentle wave of agreement washing through them. Elizabeth's heart swelled. Their journey was unfolding not merely within the walls of this chapel, but reaching out to embrace a larger reality waiting outside. She felt as if they were about to embark on a journey filled with God's revelations. One by one, each individual began to share stories of their hopes, dreams that had laid dormant for too long, waiting for just the right moment to awaken. The elderly man who had spoken of his late wife opened his heart again. Love doesn't die. It transforms, he declared, a spark in his eye. I'm ready to explore the connections still alive around me. Another woman, eyes shimmering with tears, spoke of her longing for companionship. I yearn for a sister and faith, a friend to walk alongside me in this journey. I believe God is guiding me to relationships that bring life rather than loneliness. These words wove together their collective yearning, each phrase adding vibrancy to the tapestry they were creating. Elizabeth felt her own thoughts swell in response, echoing the sentiments shared. What did God have in store for her? The notion hinted at something extraordinary, a love that would reflect His grace. The hope of finding someone who would walk beside her, sharing the journey of faith and joy, seemed almost tangible. Isn't it powerful, Jonah continued, that we are not just individuals navigating this world alone? We are meant to connect, to uplift one another, to discover the beauty of God's design for our relationships. An electric pulse of spirit surged through the gathering. Elizabeth felt the weight of her questions and desires pressing against her heart. Yes, what if in the pursuit of these divine connections, she would find a deeper sense of self? As laughter bubbled up again, Elizabeth dared to speak more deeply from her heart. I want to believe that every encounter we have, every moment, is a chance to reveal something sacred. But it requires us to be willing to step into it, to embrace the uncomfortable and the unknown. True faith often dances on the edge of risk. Jonah affirmatively nodded. It knocks at our doors when we least expect it. Have you ever wondered how many miracles are on the other side of our courage? The ambience shimmered, a palpable urgency in the air, enlivened by hope. Elizabeth's heartbeat quickened. She thought of her own journey, the moments of doubt, the times spent in solitude. The belief that someone divine, filled with the same longing, was waiting to unite her spirit with his. Jonah smiled knowingly. Perhaps we were meant to step closer to that mystery together, to allow God to surprise us. What if God is calling each of us not just to seek love, but to become vessels of His love? The question hung in the air, shimmering like sunlight through rain. They all leaned in, absorbing the weight of it together. As the final notes of their prayers lifted towards the heavens, Elizabeth felt bolstered by the incredible truth they were co-creators of the sacred relationships they desired. With the promise of a new chapter blossoming before them, Elizabeth took a deep breath. With each shared hope, she felt her spirit awaken, excited, nervous, and filled with faith. Now was the time to venture forward. But what awaited on the horizon? What miraculous signs would guide her path toward divine connection? A gentle nudging in her soul hinted that an extraordinary journey was about to begin. As the last prayer faded into the stillness, a gentle hush fell over the group. Elizabeth sat in contemplation, her eyes closing as she focused inward. The flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows on the chapel walls, like the flickers of hope lighting up her heart. She could feel the pulse of life outside, calling her onward. Jonah, with his ever-receptive spirit, suddenly broke the quiet. You know, each of us has a journey perched on the tips of our dreams. It's what makes us human. You can feel it hum in the air. He looked earnestly at Elizabeth and the others. What if we laid bare our dreams and let God weave them together? What might those threads reveal? Elizabeth's spirit stirred. Do you think He really guides us toward our destined companions? That we're not just wandering aimlessly? Her voice was soft, but the weight of her words carried a yearning that resonated profoundly in the hearts around her. Absolutely, Jonah replied, leaning forward as if to draw them all into this shared intimacy. God has a way of whispering about divine connections all around us. Sometimes the signs are subtle, and other times they slam into our existence like a thunderstorm. What if we opened our eyes to recognize them? The others nodded, faces lighting up with possibility. Each person was a potential vessel, not just for connection, but for divine essence, urging the ordinary into the extraordinary. One young girl, Emma, lifted her gaze. I read somewhere that sometimes angels walk among us. As humans, could it be true? Her curiosity was infectious. I like to think of it that way, Jonah mused. Every person we interact with is infused with a piece of Goddess love. It's a reminder that heaven is never far away. Pay attention to the key moments. His eyes glimmered with enthusiasm. What if we began to share the signs we've noticed? Those tiny nudges that have brought us closer to divine companionship? With an eager energy, Elizabeth directed her gaze back to the circle. I remember when I felt an intense longing for a deeper connection. I started to notice flickers of kindness everywhere, people reaching out, small acts of love that felt orchestrated. She paused, letting the memory wash over her. It was as if God was telling me that every smile brought transformation. Exactly, Jonah exclaimed, gleeful clarity in his expression. Those moments act like stepping stones, guiding us to one another. Whether it's a chance meeting with an old friend or a stranger lending a hand, those sparks of love can lead to something miraculous. Each individual began to chime in, recounting their own tales of unexpected encounters, how fleeting impressions turned into crucial conversations that shifted their perspectives or changed the course of their plans entirely. Elizabeth could hardly keep still. Each testimony seemed to layer upon the last, revealing a grand design. It was like a symphony, weaving together the narratives of their lives. She felt her heart swell with joy, a profound awareness of the sacred thread binding them all. Let us not dismiss these markers on our journey, Jonah encouraged, energy bursting from his words. We're meant to cherish every moment, to breathe it in deeply, for in them lie the hints of divine connections ahead. And just as Elizabeth felt this collective surge of awareness, she sensed something sparkling in the air, a connection more profound than she had anticipated. Could this be the beginning of something great? As they all began to share more, she felt her heart align with theirs. But also, a stirring inside hinted at a greater revelation just waiting to unfold. What if the very miracles they spoke of had already begun to manifest around them? Excitement replaced her earlier nervousness. The path ahead seemed infused with vibrancy and divine promise. But what if she dared to seek beyond the ordinary? What if, in her pursuit for connection, something utterly transformative awaited? Thus, she pondered quietly, what miraculous signs might she encounter that would reveal her destined path, leading not just to connection, but to a love ordained from above? In the days that followed, an undeniable shift blossomed within Elizabeth and her companions. The energy from their gathering at the chapel lingered, growing roots in the fabric of their community. Word had spread about their shared stories, gathering hearts from near and far, each waiting to find a glimmer of hope in the struggles they faced. As the sun rose each morning, Elizabeth felt a divine urgency to reach out to share the flickers of faith that had illuminated her journey. In her heart, she felt something stirring. It was the recognition that God had woven together this circle, and each thread represented a profound connection waiting to be revealed. One afternoon, as the sweet scent of spring filled the air, Elizabeth invited her friends again, the ones brave enough to share their stories. They met outdoors beneath the canopy of towering trees, where sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows upon the ground. Each person carried their stories like fragile gifts, wrapped in hope and faith. While they gathered, Jonah arrived, a smile lighting up his face. Are we ready to dive deeper into our journeys today? With a collective cheer, they settled in, the breezes of the cool afternoon whispering promises of new beginnings. Jonah began, his voice dancing with enthusiasm. Let us talk about those moments that changed everything for us. You know, the ones where we felt the divine tug, the unmistakable call. What do we perceive as signs of God as presence leading us toward love? Elizabeth's heart raced. She struggled to find her voice amid the excitement, but she pressed through. For me, it was recognizing kindness in unexpected places. A smile when I felt lonely, a reassuring touch. It felt as if God was nudging me closer to connections I yearned for. Yes, Clara chimed in. I remember finding inspiration in the laughter of friends. It reminded me that joy could be a guiding force. Those glimpses made me realize I wasn't alone. As each person opened up, weaving their thoughts into a tapestry of connection, Elizabeth felt the sacredness of vulnerability. Their stories of pain began transforming into beautiful testaments of strength. She watched as sadness melted into encouragement, doubt turned into trust, igniting flames of faith among them. Maybe, Jonah suggested earnestly, those signs are simply the breadcrumbs of love God laid out for us. We are meant to awaken to them, to embrace the moments of divine serendipity. The faces surrounding him brightened, as if remembering not just the past, but experiencing their present's richness. Then, as if God had orchestrated the moment, a soft voice interrupted. It was Emma, the young girl from the previous gathering. If you can change your hearts, can you also change your future? The question hung in the air like a divine challenge. Each adult fell silent, contemplating the weight of her words. Absolutely. Jonah responded with conviction, his face aglow. When we align ourselves with love, we shift the trajectory of our lives. The choices we make can either reflect the light or cast shadows. The divine invitation is to choose love each day to create our destinies with faith. Elizabeth felt a fire ignite within her. She wanted to be part of that change, to no longer let doubt hold her back. What if we actively seek those moments? What if we become beacons of light for those still wandering in darkness? She asked, weaving her vision into the discussion. Let us gather stories and share them. Clara exclaimed, her enthusiasm infectious. Let us illuminate our community, let us walk through the towns, and offer hope where it is needed. Encouraged by this outpouring, Jonah stood taller, his spirit billowing with possibilities. And each of us brings something unique. Each flicker of kindness can guide the person who feels lost, just as we were once lost ourselves. After pondering their thoughts, Elizabeth felt the full weight of purpose settle into her soul. Then let us act. We are not here just to exist. We're here to weave a divine legacy, a fabric of shared love that resonates. Far and wide, we take this divine light into our world. Overwhelmed with excitement, but grounded in purpose, they all nodded, affirming a collective journey blossoming before them. As dusk twinkled across the horizon, the gathering took on a sense of sanctity, and one by one, they offered to pray. Their petitions floated up like incense, entwining with promises of hope, paving the way for the miracles to come. But what divine encounters awaited them just beyond their reach? What beautiful connections were waiting to be discovered in the hearts of those they had yet to meet? Elizabeth sensed that the real journey was only just beginning. Weeks passed, with each gathering bringing a fresh wave of divine revelations. They ventured into their community, carrying the gifts of love. They had shared small acts of kindness, heartfelt conversations, and encouragement whispered in moments of vulnerability. Elizabeth found herself transformed. No longer longing for companionship from a distance, she actively sought to weave relationships filled with grace. As she exchanged smiles and greetings, she began to notice the way God moved in her midst. Each interaction became a sparkle of possibility. One day, Elizabeth stood at the city park with Jonah and Clara, watching the children play. Look at the joy surrounding us, she mused. Why do we wait? Why not invite them to join our circle? Who knows how their stories might illuminate our own? Their hearts aligned, and just like that, they approached a group of teens lingering nearby. Inviting them to share their hopes and dreams felt like throwing open a door to a bright future. With each interaction, Elizabeth could feel the truth of God's love pouring through them. Will you join us? Was the question that hung in the warm air, an open door, an invitation to connect and grow together. Each fertile conversation seeded a new understanding, laying the groundwork for bonds that transcended their fears and insecurities. Elizabeth marveled at how rapidly their circle expanded. Each new person was filled with potential, their own flickers becoming radiant flames of connection. As new hearts shared their stories, laughter echoed around them, an orchestra of hope thriving like wildflowers against a sunlit backdrop. Each testimony awakened buried dreams and hopes, healing wounds as they reached into the depths of their collective spirits. And then, with one spark of serendipity, Elizabeth met someone who lit up her path even more brightly. His name was Matthew, a kindred spirit who understood her yearning for deeper connection. They found solace in shared experiences, complementing each other in perspectives that grew richer with every conversation. "Elizabeth," he said with a glimmer of sincerity, "you're a flame that brings warmth to those around you. It's like God has used your journey to guide you right into the hearts of many, including mine." Her heart soared. Was this their divine connection? She felt the pieces of her life finally falling into place. Her journey had culminated into a beautiful tapestry, now adorned with love and the company of faithful souls. The tapestry shimmered with promises of transformative connections, each thread telling a story of grace, healing, and hope. Looking around at the hearts surrounding her, Elizabeth felt gratitude swell in her spirit. "This is just the beginning," she whispered to herself, a quiet affirmation resonating within. As they gathered under the stars that evening, Elizabeth felt a profound truth settle in her heart. She had stepped into her calling, embraced her journey towards divine love, and she was ready for whatever miraculous encounters awaited. "Thank you, Lord," she thought, as they all laughed, shared warmth, and let their stories flow like rivers of grace. For the love and light woven through their lives, and the breaths of new beginnings yet to come, and dear friends, may you also find the same call, the same purpose awaiting you. Seek, and you will discover the divine stories that transform lives are always ready to be chosen. So don't wait another second. If you believe in the power of these sacred connections, subscribe immediately to our channel, and don't miss the next exclusive faith stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm that brings more hearts to this divine family. Comment below with your reactions and testimonies about the ending. Be a part of this vibrant community and let your voice be heard. Finally, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation. Only true servants of God understand the importance of supporting our journey together through these acts. Let us carry this light forward.